Alright, just set that up. Okay, cool. So Translucid is a comic book that just came out from Boom Studios, co-written by you guys. I have the C2E2 variant here, very nice. So what is Translucid? Like, for people who may not be familiar with the series, if you could give us an overview of what Translucid is.
Definitely. Translucid is our first venture into the superhero medium for Claudio and I. The story basically is a hero and a villain. The hero called the Navigator, and the horse is our villain. And over the course of their relationship, they've become very codependent on one another. And the villain has sort of pushed the hero to be a better hero. Not using his villainous acts to take him down per se, but to make him better. And he's realized that it's become too codependent, and the hero is sort of failing. So he decides to sever their relationship. Only to do so, he has to go back through the hero's childhood and force the hero to face the demons that have forced him into becoming a hero.
Okay. So what was the main inspiration behind Translucid? Like, what gave you guys the idea to write this comic series?
About a year or so ago, I was asked to write a song for the Arkham City Batman video game. Mm-hmm. I was given a script and asked to write something that was inspired by it. And so I chose the relationship between the Batman and the Joker. And I just kind of thought, what would life be like without him? Without the Joker, and so just how much he really means to Batman, and more so like this unspoken love for each other. Well, I guess in maybe not so much in, but you
Right.
get what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
So that was really kind of the inspiration, because I've always toyed around with the idea of writing a Batman story, and but I just thought, with the way this story sort of ends, I'm not so sure I'd be able to do that in the Batman universe.
Okay.
So that's kind of what spilled over into Translucid.
The series. Okay. Did you approach Boom Studios, or did they approach you with?
Well, we have a couple of titles out with Boom.
Right.
So it's just natural for us to kind of go to them and present them these ideas, because it's kind of home for us at the moment.
I think we had a nice lunch at San Diego Comic-Con a couple of years ago with Ross Ritchie, and just we're talking about the idea for the story, and he really liked it, and so we have a good relationship with them where we can bring them ideas, and they're always on board.
They're open to it. Yeah, that's really good. That actually brings me to one of my other questions I had. Someone drawn a stark comparison in the story between the Navigator and the horse, between Batman and the Joker. Is that something you think will change as the series progresses?
I think so. There's definitely a lot of nods, that are just like homages to the heroes that I was brought up with. Obviously Batman has his commissioner, the Navigator has his commissioner counterpart, so it's like kind of gives you an issue 2. You sort of see the development of this character, where he chooses to leave a class field trip for another sort of venture, and it kind of winks at Peter Parker and Spider-Man. But for the most part, once you get out of, it definitely takes a turn and becomes its own thing. It's more like, like I said, like a little love letter to those like heroes that I love, but at the same time, it really sort of veers off and becomes its thing.
Okay, so it'll grow into its own thing.
Yeah.
Great. So, like I said, the series is 6 issues. Do you see like this story maybe continuing on after this is over? Maybe like taking these characters like a prequel or other stories beforehand?
There's definitely a room to do that in the way that it ends. But I think, the story that I would ultimately move into would be vastly different from the story that's contained in these 6 issues.
I think at the moment these 6 issues, they're very poetic, very romantic when you get to the end, and I think if we left it that way, closed the door on it, it would feel that way. You know? But yeah, like Sean was saying, if there is room to push into more, but it would become a different book.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know, because I know it seemed like there's a lot of history between the Navigator and the horse.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if that would be covered in the 6 issues, or if maybe if there was a chance to go back and see their earlier days whenever they were formative years.
It can always be expanded upon, certainly. With the 6er, it's kind of like, how much of that do you really get to see? Mm-hmm. But I think in some ways you'll find that the story is only half about that.
Okay.
as we move into issue 2.
Yeah, I mean, at the heart of it, it's an origin tale, and it's a very ambiguous origin tale. Like it's got two sides to it. So you'll see.
Okay, yeah. Speaking of ambiguity, there's the artist child at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. How does he factor into the story? I mean, it's kind of really ambiguous. Like you see him drawing, you see the chess pieces, and those kind of seem like they become the characters and stuff in the story. So how does he factor in this? If you can tell us without giving it away.
It's so tough to explain it without giving it away.
Yeah, I think that part of the appeal of this series for us was that we wanted every issue to feel like when someone read it, they felt it was going in a different direction. Maybe they had a different assumption of who the child was, or they had a different assumption of why he's there, what his purpose is. So I think as you move through the other issues, you'll find, like, issue 2, this is what his deal is, and then by issue 3, maybe you think he's somebody else. So yeah, that's definitely part of kind of the big reveal at the end as we move forward.
Okay, so we'll find out his identity and relationship to all these superheroes. Okay,
yeah, it unravels. Slow burner.
Okay, gotcha. So the question is, how does writing and process work with both of you writing duties? I mean, most comics are written by one person who has the total vision, but I know you guys are working together like you had before.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that process work between the two of you to tell this story?
Yeah, we like working together. We spend a lot of time together. Obviously, we're married.
We're life collaborators.
We're life collaborators.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
It's really fun to be able to. I think collaboration in general can be a really positive thing, or it can be very tricky. Certainly, when you're working with somebody that you don't really know, there are bonuses to that because you've got two completely fresh perspectives coming into play. But it's really hard sometimes to communicate honestly. And be able to say, I don't think this is the direction that it should be going in. Or for us, we can have a knockdown, drag-out fight over what kind of hat a character can wear, and then the next day, we're fine. We're fine 2 hours later. But I think at the end of the day, it really creates a better story when you kind of understand each other's strengths. And same with an artist. If you know this is where you excel, I'm not going to step on your toes. It just makes for a really cool collaboration. I think we've kind of gotten down our groove over the years. So every new story that we work on, it gets easier and funner.
Okay, so you think that honesty makes the story better? Like that you said, you can tell him what you really feel, and you can tell her.
Yeah.
Like that honesty makes it a stronger.
I think
story.
as a writer and as a creative in any capacity, it's like you're kind of your own worst enemy. Like living in your own head and living with a script or living with a song or whatever it is, and not having any sort of outside perspective. Sometimes you can either be your worst critic or you can not see the flaws. So to have somebody there who's like an objective, but loving loving perspective is really cool. Yeah.
As far as like a process goes, I mean, it's usually I'll come up with an idea, bounce it off her. We'll start to give that idea some flesh. Chondra will start a script and send it my way, and I'll kind of edit it and make some changes, and we'll just kind of go back and forth till we find a place. And also then there's the editorial that has the TAM in it as well. So.
Yeah, and we work 24 hours a day. You know what I mean? If an idea strikes, we don't have like limitations of, we'll email, you're on this coast, or most of the time when we read scripts out loud together, we're not like just sending back and forth a document. Like we're engaged in it. How does this sound out loud? Is this cheesy? Things like that are cool. It's really very unique to being a couple.
Okay, so it's like a real time kind of thing. Yeah, this is really awesome. So in the story, the horse is a character that's based on a chess piece, the knight, the white knight. So like, was it the chance to visually use the white knight as a villain? Was that coincidence? Was that something you guys had planned out visually, or? I
think it had a lot to do with the titles that we gave them. There's a line and I'll give this away, but there's a line and I love the line. So, but there's a line in issue 2 where the navigator is like, he says, what's the line that he says to the horse? He's like, you couldn't have picked a better name.
Yeah, he says something
when they first meet, something along those lines.
Really, really creative title. To go with this obvious costume.
And then the horse retorts, well, like, every navigator needs his means of transportation, and that's or something along those lines. So it's like we chose it. For me, I think subconsciously I chose it because, these characters are always pushing each other to do better. And, here is this character that's supposed to be the navigator of good. He's this champion of the moral compass, and then here is this horse that's basically like taking him off in these other directions and testing him. So I think that was like more so the choice, and obviously the chess piece because of the game and the strategy behind some of the crimes that he actually commits. They question the navigator's moral compass.
Yeah. So it's a question of who's guiding who, I guess. Always with these two.
Gotcha. So, other than the print version, I also have the version of ComicSology. I'm sure you're familiar with that. The version seems to be catered to the digital medium as like the panels progress. You see on each page. My example is the skyscraper reveal. It goes through each one before the full reveal.
Yeah.
Now, was this comic when you created? Was it specifically for the digital medium or the print medium? And that just happened to work digitally, or like what was your goal with?
I think it just happened to work. I mean, usually we don't. We write for print. I think we don't usually see the layouts of the digital.
No,
Okay.
they always do a really good job. That's like kind of their in-house stuff happening. They always with all of our titles, they've done like a really good job taking it from print to they. If you want to own the print version, but you also get something different, and maybe a perspective that you didn't get in print, you get from this like progression on the digital end of things.
I gotta check it out. I bought it on ComicSology. I haven't had a chance to check out the sequence. It just kind of slipped my mind.
When's the next issue out? I guess is my next question. When's issue 2 scheduled to release?
Third week of May.
Okay.
The next issue will be out. It's a monthly, so it'll come out, every month. Wrapping up sometime near September, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that's really... Actually, one more question that came up while I was thinking of this. About the artist and child in this. You use a narrator sort of, in the Amory Wars and other series you've done. So is that like a theme that you like to use a lot?
I mean, we do use a narrator a lot. I mean, I don't think we used one in Kill Audio, but the thing that I like about the narrator is it brings this romantic, like, / poetic kind of insight to the book. One of the things that I really like is identity, and I find that I write in both story and in music is identity, and just the conflicts of self, and you really for me, it's like you get that with an internal monologue, something like a narration. And so I find it is a theme that we often use, but I think it's to really emphasize that.
Okay.
For me, the books I like to read are all there's some sort of caption or narration happening, like the saga things that I'm currently reading. And I think that's because I wasn't really into comics growing up. I was reading prose, so having that kind of grounds the story in some ways. You're not just jumping from conversation to conversation. It feels like, this person's telling me what I need to know and where I should be going.
It's
and
kind
how
of
I should
guiding
feel.
you along the path. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's it. So thank you so much for your time, guys.
You got it. Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Yeah.